Hello, everybody. Keaton Gillogly with you, and today we get to talk to another member of the 2017 championship team, Jack Anderson, the Creature. Jack, how we doing?
Great, man. It's great to be here. I'm excited for this.
Yeah. How long have you had that nickname, the Creature, now?
Dude, I think it came in 2017 in Modesto. I think it was like a combo of Woody, Robert Duggar, Reggie McClain. I think those are the three people I'll give the most credit to for but now it's sticking. So it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, hey, I saw some of the Mariners beat writers pick it up. So once they pick it up, it's written in stone.
It's Service picked it up pretty early, and it's been rolling ever since.
So then that means Reggie McClain has credit for a couple of nicknames now. If he's part of the Creature, he also gave L.J. Newsome the nickname of the Goat Ball with his fastball. So,
all right, Reggie, yeah. A little creative, huh?
Yeah, he usually is. Where you hold up right now? What's your quarantine routine been like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting in my bed in my parents' house right now. So I'm back here in Evanston, Illinois. Routine has been a routine, which has been huge. Like, we've been sticking to a routine. I want to give my brother a shot. Who knows if he'll watch this, but give him he's been I'm incredibly fortunate to have a brother who's super competent at baseball. He plays club baseball at University of Illinois. So we've been getting up in the morning. We've been running through a full throwing program, some little conditioning. Then we come back and we've got a pretty good setup rocking in the garage where I bought a couple. We have like an old bench press. I got some med balls, a couple other bands and stuff. So one of my neighbors who's a good friend comes over and the three of us get after it in the weight room. And then, just literally killing time for the rest of the day. But it's been good to have sticking to something and keeping it rolling with baseball and everything.
So how has the communication with the Mariners been during the shutdown?
It's been good. I personally am involved in like a little Zoom call with a couple other relievers and one of the mental strength coaches. So I see them weekly. We get check-ins from trainers, strength guys, pitching coaches. So they're staying in touch. They're trying to keep spirits up, with all things considered, for sure.
Well, let's go back to 2017 a little bit. You got a chance to join that team in late July before the team went on for the California League Championship.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your first impressions? I mean, you got there a little late, so there was already kind of a clubhouse culture and vibe there. So what were your first impressions when you got to join the club in July of the 2017 title run?
For sure. I think the perspective so Robert Duggar and I got called up on the same within like a day of each other, and we had been rooming together in Clinton. So I think the us coming in and like the way we were accepted into that clubhouse really just personifies that team. And I think just the camaraderie, realistically, there's a couple guys left in the Mariners system from that team, but when everyone was together, that team just did special things. And I mean, the guys it's been said before, but it's my favorite quote, especially about this team, that if you got too high, we'd knock you down. We'd bring you back down. But if you were too low, we're the first people to bring you back up. So everything's even keel. Everyone's looking out for each other on highs and lows. And so it was a blast. I mean, the camaraderie was the number one thing for sure.
It's interesting because one of the things that I've had a chance to talk to a lot of guys is about how tight that core group has been. But one thing that's, I think, been kind of talked about when I've been talking to guys is actually how many guys are now in other organizations. I mean, Seth Elledge was 2018, but he was traded. Robert Duggar was the starting pitcher in the clinching games of Game 3 in both the Division Series and Championship Series. He was traded to Miami. Nick Neidert made 19 starts on the Modesto team before he got called up in 2017. He's in the Marlins organization now. And Pablo Lopez was on that team. He got traded as well. I mean, those are a lot of pitchers, a lot of good arms that are now kind of spread out around the organization. And even beyond now, Reggie McClain is in the Phillies organization after getting picked up on waivers during this offseason. So, the guys have really been spread around. You still keeping in touch with a lot of the guys in the other organizations now?
Yeah, I think just from the names that you mentioned, incredible guys. And Seth and Robert are two of my closest friends in the baseball world. So I stay in contact with them. Reggie, the best, but yeah, Art and I lived together in the spring, and we were running through it and living with Festa too. And the three of us are the only arms really left from that entire team in the Mariners organization. And we were just kind of mind blown by looking back on that. So yeah, you're definitely right. But I mean, the talent was still there. it got picked up in other orgs. Like other people noticed it outside of the Mariners. And I think that was super important too, just giving guys opportunities.
Yeah, Nathan Bannister started game one in both of those series as a pitching coach now. He was getting ready to go to West Virginia.
Yeah, they got to keep everybody involved because, like, those are great baseball minds, man. You got to keep them in. You got to keep them around.
Well, let's get into the postseason run then. You guys sweep through the postseason, the 6-0 run against the Ports and the Jethawks. What do you remember about the postseason run?
So I always felt like those two sweeps, the first game, I think we just overwhelmed both teams with our talent. Like, we were just better. And the second game, they both gave us, like, their best shots. Like, the second game of the championship was one of the best baseball games I've ever been a part of. Super back and forth, extra innings. Like, they gave us their best shot. I remember Stockton doing something similar. And then the third game, they kind of just rolled over. We were up 2-0, and those guys are trying to go home type of thing. So I think, like, the series kind of mirrored themselves almost. But it was a blast, man. Everyone was so locked in. A lot of credit to Mitch and Woody for really just controlling that clubhouse environment and creating that culture that we're ready to. We want to pop bottles. Like, that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're going to do, and that's what we did.
Now, you mentioned Pete Woodworth. Let's get into his journey here a little bit. You had a chance to work with him in 17 and 18 in Modesto. You worked with him all of last year, 19 in Arkansas, and now you got to see him at big league camp because you were at big league camp. He's getting ready to be the big league pitching coach. What's your relationship with Pete Woodworth like?
Woody's the best. I mean, like, I can't say anything bad about him. I have to credit so much of my career to him. I mean, he's been the driving force of, like, pitching wisdom over the past 2.5 years when I've had by far the most growth I've ever had as a pitcher. So I think a ton of credit goes to him. What makes Woody special is that in the baseball world, you almost have two groups of, like, you got your traditional, you got your old school methods, and then you have your new school, like, a lot of technology, force the numbers down your throat. And he's neither of those. He's like a beautiful mix right in between, where he kind of maybe grew up on old school natures and, like, working a mental game and understand how to compete. But he's able to understand and mix in and wants to learn about all these other technologies and advancements in baseball. And then he's incorporating them, but, like, he's like easing you into them. He's never forcing it down your throat. It's never like, you have to look at this number, you have to do this way. It's like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's try and work something in. If you don't like it, maybe we try it a different way. I think that's what makes him super special, is that he's able to connect to everybody using different methods.
Yeah, let's break that down a little bit, because I think that's a really interesting blend, and especially because he's so young. A lot of the guys I feel like that you see are young around Major League Baseball right now, into the minor leagues, are so much of that analytical focus, but it does sound like he's bringing such sage advice, despite the fact he only had 1 year of pro ball. I mean, he referred to himself as the Crash Davis of the Gulf Coast League when he got signed and played his 1 year in the Tampa Bay Rays organization before he got released. So I'm going to ask you two questions here to give me an example of a time where he's brought you an advanced statistic or something you've never really seen that you thought maybe helped, or another guy too. And then another example where you kind of get his feel, that his baseball feel, his human feel. So is there an example that maybe brings those two polar opposites together?
Yeah. So, generally the feel and that aspect, like, especially for me, he's I'm kind of working on a feel level, and a lot of the numbers don't particularly pertain to me on in that realm. So for me specifically, he's been an incredible, we've been together for 2.5 years. Like, he can notice when I'm off mentally or something. Like, he's able to either give me that space or come talk if he knows I need to talk something out. He's always that mind that's there, and he's always available. And so, like, having that outlet, I think, is super important as well. And he's been fantastic as that. So I think that's more of the traditional method, and kind of just, like, breeding that competition and that mental side of, you need to go get 3 outs. Like, we're going to work on all the technical things here, but hey, when you step on the mound, like, you have to go get those outs. That's your job. You're going to get these outs no matter, like, and it's going to be a dogfight on the mound. It always is. So he's preparing you for that, I think, on the mental side, and figuring all those things out. And then for me specifically with the numbers and everything, they were introduced to me more last year, just kind of more specific things that they wanted me to incorporate. But he eased it to me because he knew that if it was just all thrown at me. And it's this way for most guys, because you're retraining your entire brain of like, ERA doesn't mean anything anymore. Like all these wins, loss, all these things that you look at a baseball card your entire life is just completely restructured. So if that's presented to you in the wrong way, it could be detrimental. It could be overwhelming. It can be scary. So I think, like, for example, in last year, he kind of just let me go for a while. And then after a little while, we had a meeting, and it was kind of, hey, the Mariners want you to get better at this and this. Let's try mixing this in some bullpens. Let's try mixing this in into some game situations. So it was just an easier transition for me. And I think that the easing of the transition is kind of that blend.
I think that's interesting, what you pointed out there, that, you know, you're retraining your brain to take so much weight out of ERA for a pitcher, you know, and for a hitter, there's certain statistics there. I'm sure that they're trying to kind of retrain their brain. That's really, I mean, that's strange. That's a difficult thing that you guys are looking so heavily on ERA or a certain statistic. I mean, what is that process like? How have you seen some of the other guys go through it as they retrain their brain?
Realistically, it's impossible, because like I'm a huge baseball fan junkie before it was even playing at this high of a level. So like and especially from the outside world, like your parents, your friends, like they're looking at the ERA still, like that's the number that's important to them. But when you're looking for promotion, like you have to recognize, hey, this isn't everything, you know, like this one number doesn't summarize me very well, realistically. And so I think once you recognize that, and like, they're still weighting it, like ERAs, like they still look good. They still matter. Like they're still going to be worth some money someday, you know? So like for one example was Sam Delaplane, who's had an incredible past couple of years, obviously. And I remember coming in to spring training a little early, not this past year, but the year before. And it was right kind of when everyone was getting analytics for the first time. And he was like completely against it initially. And like our pitching coordinator, Max Wiener, had presented these numbers to him. And he was like, no, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't how I pitch. This isn't like, but like the numbers supported it. They backed these things up. And last year he kind of fully made that transition into like, hey, I'm going to dive into these numbers and I'm going to utilize them to my advantage and like throw into these certain places and certain counts and everything. And he took off. I mean, so like that was completely from him embracing the analytical side of what he's doing well.
So how do you track your numbers now? What are the things you're looking at on a day-to-day basis to see if you're being successful? Because you can feel successful, but when you're looking at the numbers and stuff, what do you look for to say, yeah, okay, I'm doing okay, or I need to make an adjustment?
For sure. So the biggest things that we're graded on, and I don't want to give away any industry secrets, but I think that as a pitcher, the biggest thing that they're looking at is you have to develop your pitch to the best of its ability. So I throw a fastball and a slider. So it's first figuring out what movement that I've shown in the past that I can do already. Like maybe I've done it a few times, like thrown this slider at and gotten this much break at this angle. And they're like, this is the most effective version of your slider. So then it's like, all right, I need to get my slider shape consistent to that. And then once I have a consistent slider shape, and these are all tracked by your TrackMans, by your Rapsodos. So it's numbers that you can see. And once I have my specific pitch shape and it's consistent, and then it's putting it in specific places in the zone at certain counts that these numbers also support. Hey, when you throw this slider like this, up and in, or like down and away, like these are the numbers against, like it's in, like these are the places you need to be throwing it. So those are like location scores, and then action scores, I'm pretty sure is what it's called. And then those two together are creating your pitch score. So then it's grading how good my fastball is and how good my slider is, how effectively I've been using it. And those are really I think the major numbers that dictate a lot of movement throughout the organization.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And it doesn't really sound that complicated. I mean, the technology is complicated. TrackMan is very complicated. Rapsodo, the piece of machine is quite complicated. But those numbers itself don't sound too complicated the way they're packaged. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, and credit to the Mariners, because they do a great job of presenting it to you. Like, and you hear horror stories of other organizations, like guys getting cut because their spin rates aren't high enough just off the bat. Like you never even from pitching in a game, you're not getting released from that. So the Mariners are great at, and especially after a game, they have reports. They have these pitching reports that have your pitch grades, have your locations, have your scores. So you have the option to look at them. You have the option to not. You have the option to look at them once a month. So yeah, it's overwhelming if you make it overwhelming. But realistically, I think the Mariners do a great job at their presentation of it.
So I want to backtrack just a little bit and get back onto Pete Woodworth and what he's going through. You know, Nuts fans very excited to see him make his major league debut whenever that comes. But, you know, since you were in big league camp and you saw him starting to work with a lot of the big league guys and plenty of the guys you had in Arkansas in 2019, how did you see him being received? How did you see him kind of walking around big league camp and working with these guys who do have so much major league experience already?
Yeah, I think in the baseball world and just in life in general, you need to build a trust before you can give people advice and tell people what to do. So naturally, that was probably a major part of spring training for him. And it was something I almost recognized not this year, but the year before when it was his first year as a AA coach, because the AA and AAA coaching staffs will come over to the major league side. And you could see just how he was functioning around guys. Like, he was kind of feeling it out, like understanding more of that level and how people are working and how you need to communicate with them. And it goes back to what we were talking about before with him. Like, maybe his greatest asset is finding different ways to communicate with different guys, because everyone's going to be so different. And like, that's really just a testament to leadership and recognizing that people are individuals. You can't just put everybody in a box and coach them the same way. So I think once guys recognize that and he's working one-on-one and he's getting personable like he is, and like that's the guy he is, so he can't run from that. I think that once guys recognize that, you're bought into Woody immediately. And I think that you could see that throughout the clubhouse pretty quickly in spring training.
Now, I know you didn't get a ton of time at spring training before everything got shut down, but how different did it feel? I mean, do you feel like there's a lot of continuity in the way the Mariners are preparing you in the minor leagues, that they're also trying to prepare the major leaguers in the same way to get ready for a game, get ready for a scouting report, and get your work in?
Yeah, for sure. I think that obviously there's more at the big league level, because there's a new level of importance to everything you're doing. Like, you're now worth this amount of money and you're making this amount of money for all these people. So I think that that's why maybe you're eased into it coming up in the system, kind of those numbers and the preparation aspect, because once you reach the big leagues, it is like, here's all this stuff and you have to be able to take some stuff from it. So I think being prepared for those type of situations is definitely important.
So I want to get back to catchers a little bit for you. Now, here you sit in a situation where you don't really, have you had a chance to throw to a catcher at all during the shutdown?
Yeah, I have actually. Very fortunate in that.
Yeah, so if you didn't, and for some of the other guys who don't, I mean, how big of a difference does it make when you're throwing to a catcher versus throwing against a wall or a net during the shutdown?
Huge difference. And I know from experience, from just going through winters up here in Chicago, like having to throw inside, throwing with another person is everything. Like, you see how they react to a baseball, you get feedback, you get, and it's just a rhythm aspect too. Like, everything is better. And then so actually it's crazy that you asked that question, because on Fridays I've been throwing to my high school catcher who's back home. I throw to him during the winter sometimes. So yeah, I bring him out on Fridays, and then I was trying to bump it up to 2 bullpens a week. So on Tuesday, my brother and I went over to the mound and we set up like a little dummy. And I was just trying to throw to him and I couldn't throw a strike. Like, I didn't know what to pick up I didn't know where to pick up my target. It had like a hole in it and you could see the fence through. So I'm trying to look at that. And then I'm trying to look at his knee. It was weird. So it really did throw me off. So I think that like having a catcher and just feeling that glove pop, man, there's really nothing like it. Like, the first time I threw off a mound was maybe 2 weeks ago. And it was the first time since spring training. And I just came back like elated, ecstatic. Like, it just felt so great to throw to a catcher off a mound, you know?
That's interesting. You mentioned it was hard throwing strikes because you couldn't figure out what to pick up. I mean, when you're actually on the field and in game situations, do different places feel different when you're trying to pick up your target looking at the catcher?
Yeah. I think I have this thing where sometimes when I get on the mound, it feels really close. Like, home plate will feel really close to me. And like, that's when I know, like, yo, you're locked in, you're ready to go. But sometimes it feels far. And those are the days like you're grinding. You're like, all right, this kind of might feel like 70 feet, not the 60 feet, 6 inches, you know? So you're pushing a little bit. And maybe that, I don't know if that like just the background affects that but like that's something I'm conscious of coming into a game. Like, I wonder how close the mound's going to feel today. And like maybe ballparks affect that because home, like I think it comes easier at home because maybe you're more comfortable with it. It's like, hey, like this is a familiar feeling. Like I'm in the zone easier and faster versus being on the road. It's something new, you know?
Yeah, that's a fascinating kind of mental trick that's happening to you. I mean, and now that it's happened a few times, I'm sure you have more mental skills to handle that versus the first time you got onto the field, especially in a pro setting. You're thinking, oh my gosh, is that 70 or 80 feet away from me?
For sure. A little terrified the first time. I mean, yeah, I don't know when it was something that started, but it's definitely something that I recognize now.
The other aspect about catchers I want to ask you about is Cal Raleigh, a guy Nuts Nation got to know really well in 2019. What was Cal like when he got to Double-A in terms of handling the pitching staff? What was his demeanor? What were some of the conversations he was having with you guys?
Sure. I think Cal came up at a great time, too, with guys like Joe DiCarlo and Joseph Odom being on the same team because those are two of my favorite catchers to ever throw to. Like, I mean, Odom's incredible. The numbers back it up. Everyone will tell you. And then DiCarlo just I thought his pitch calling was really good. I thought that it was a super underrated aspect of his game. So I told him early on, I was like, Deeks, do you mind like going and talking to Cal and just kind of running through like what your thought process is when you're calling a game for me? Because I think you do such a great job at it. So I think that Cal came in definitely willing to learn, and like his talent is unquestioned. Like he hits tanks from both sides, like rocket arm, like great. He's a great framer. That's something he's constantly working on, which I think all catchers are constantly working on that aspect of their game. But the biggest thing that I think that when he came up to Arkansas that he was going to work on and needed to work on was the pitch calling and like understanding the game and just being a catcher. And I think that he made incredible strides throughout just his time in Arkansas because like as you move up levels, it kind of forces you into situations where, hey, I got to figure out a way to survive at this new level. And like, I got to figure out a way to improve. And I think that Cal came in and learned. I mean, he soaks it up. He's just there to learn. And incredibly impressed by how quickly he matured on that aspect too.
Yeah, when it comes to game planning, the jump from advanced A to Double-A is huge. So from your perspective, how different was it game planning for advanced A hitters versus game planning for Double-A hitters?
Yeah, I think, and it's also interesting. That's an interesting question for us specifically because there's only 8 teams in the Cal League and there's only 8 teams in the Texas League. So you're seeing the same, and you only play your division realistically outside of like a couple weeks of the season. So you're seeing the same Dodgers hitters and A's, like you're seeing these same guys over and over. So the game planning almost becomes like what did these guys do to me last time? How did I sequence them? Like you're using your history a lot in those 2 leagues, especially. Maybe there's more movement in the high A because like the lineup seemed pretty consistent in Double-A. It's like, all right, I'm facing the same pocket of the lineup, especially as being a reliever. Like, all right, I'm going to come in and get these few specific guys. Like I remember Tenuta was always gearing up for like their biggest left-handed hitter, like this is the guy I'm facing in this series a couple times. So from that aspect, like just the game planning advances because they're better, I think. And I think the hitting is better and it takes more to get them out. So you want to have more of an advantage. And I think that forces you into being better at preparing.
Cal, one of the things he mentioned in some of our conversations was that, he heard the knocks against his receiving. He heard the knocks about, we don't know if you can stay behind the plate because you're such a big guy and those sorts of things. When you're throwing to him, how was his receiving and how was his movement behind the plate?
I've never had a problem with either of those things. Nothing to comment on really. Like I thought he's been fit, like physically, I think he's incredible. Like I said before, he could do anything he wants, and I think he can stick behind the plate absolutely. And he's just going to continue to mature calling games, and it's just going to take repetitions. We got to get him back out on the field this year.
All right, next question for you. You're a guy who heats up quickly. Which heat was worse, the Modesto Central Valley heat or the Arkansas and Texas League heat?
No, the Texas heat's worse. The humidity is out of control. I mean, I think you feel it more in the California League when you go down south, like Rancho. I can always tell when I get the drips coming off my brim of sweat. So the first time that ever happened to me was in Rancho, and Woody like looked at me, he's like, "You okay? Like, no one does this. Like, what are you doing?" So I think Rancho got me, and then like, yeah, the Texas League was like we'd be doing our pregame stuff at like 2:33, and within half an hour, your hand is so soaked you can barely grab the ball. Like you're drenched, like you're wringing out your shirt after BP. Like it's insane the amount of sweat. Like, and then not even, I'm a sweaty dude, and it's not just me; it's everybody getting hit by it.
You also gave up a home run this year, which is noteworthy. You did not give up a home run. For people who don't know, you did not give up a home run in college for 4 years, and you hadn't given up a pro home run until this year. I think the number was, including college, 366 innings through college and pro ball, and you've now given up one home run. What was the last home run you'd given up before that?
So the last home run before that was before I dropped down. So it was my freshman year of high school. And it was in a tournament in Wisconsin to this huge kid from Laredo, Texas, who took me so far and so deep. And I still get my friends who played on that team in high school, like, still rag on me about this homer because they know it was like the last one that I'd given up in a long time. So yeah, that was the one before it.
But so that was you when you were still trying to kind of come over the top before you were Submariner?
Yeah, it was like a low 3/4. Like it was very sidearm, but it was like, it wasn't the full Submarine that I do now.
So
that means I made that transition sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, so that means then, so you hadn't given up a home run since your freshman year of high school or that freshman summer?
Yeah, that freshman summer.
And then the home run you gave up this year at AA was the first one you'd given up as a Submariner?
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, and it sucked. It wasn't fun. I wasn't happy about it. There was I'll just give you the rundown. It was again, another situation where we're playing the same teams over and over in Northwest Arkansas. And this Taylor Featherstone, who's like, he has some big league time. He's a good hitter. But we later on looked at the numbers like later in the season, and we pulled up, we were just pulling up like the times that I've given up like over 100 mile per hour, to a righty off the bat. And it was like maybe 2/3 of the way through the year, and there weren't very many. There's maybe 4. And it was like 3 of the top 4 were Taylor Featherstone. And it was just like, this guy was all over me. And realistically, like later on, I think, hopefully he doesn't watch this, but later on I realized what I was doing wrong when I was sequencing him, and ended up getting him to roll into a double play the last time I faced him. Was a funny and big deal between me and Woody. Like that was the little rivalry match. You got to get yourself geared up a little bit for something extra. But yeah, he got the best of me almost all season for sure.
But still just the one home run. That's it.
Yeah, knock on wood, man. We got to keep it that way.
Final thing on the 2019 season for you. You know, you guys get into the Texas League playoffs. You end up getting eliminated. But after that is the quadruple call-up in the clubhouse. What do you remember about the quadruple call-up of guys?
I mean, a day I'll never forget. Like, not even just that that Arkansas team was so close. It resembled that 17 Modesto team as a lot of the same guys. And so the camaraderie was definitely there. So, and you're so close to the big leagues all year that it's like it's a topic of conversation constantly between guys. It's never like, oh, I deserve this or anything, but it's like, it's always in the back of people's heads. Like, we're close. And so the season ended. We kind of knew a couple guys would go, but we had no idea, that all 4 of them would be going. And 3 of them are former Nuts that I've been playing with forever. Justin Dunn was just the 1 year, but I played with him in the summer, so it was really cool too. And like, just to see the journey that these guys went through, like the grind that you're going through every single day, and then you can just relate to their grind, and they have their own things on top of that you hear about, and you get close to these guys. Like Kyle going through his injury stuff, and like we're not the closest, but like we're good homies, like through just playing on the team. But like, it was like rocked me to like see like type of adversity that he's beaten to get there. And then you got like a lower round guy like Art, who I'm spending every single day sitting next to, and to see his injury history and like be next to him when he finds out like he's got to go on the shelf with the DL, and like figuring out what he's going to do about it and talking him through those things. And then just to see him overcome with emotion to reach that. And Donnie, I mean, who doesn't love Donnie? I mean, like, he's just the team guy that every single person on that team is cheering for. And like, it's obviously a competition, like you're competing for the same spots, but Donnie's a guy that every single person on that team was so happy that he got called up and got that opportunity. So it was just like 4 great dudes, which is like made it that much more special. Like everyone liked these 4 guys, like, which is like, it was just incredible. It really was incredible. And it inspires you. Like, at least it inspired me. I hope it inspired most of the other guys in the room to want to feel that feeling for yourself. And I can almost, so we've been watching The Last Dance, obviously. I hope you have too.
We're Chicago guys.
Like when Jordan wins his first championship and they talk about him being so overcome with emotion, and he's crying, holding the trophy, and you have that iconic image. And it's like you have a couple of his teammates come on, they're like, dude, he was like so locked in. We didn't even know if he had emotion, but just to reach that pinnacle of something you've been working towards for so long and so hard and so much effort goes into it. And then to reach that, like, and just to be able to release it all. Like, I think that those two were very similar experiences, like seeing Jordan go through that and then seeing these guys reach that goal. And now they know that they got to keep working to stay there. It's like the goal is the goal, you got there, but like now the goal is to have a career. So I think that it was cool for them it was sick to see him do that. And then it was cool to see him go up there and succeed in the show. Like they weren't done, you know?
Yeah. Reggie McClain had some good numbers, even though he wasn't part of that 4 spot. He was up there already. McClain had good numbers against everybody except the Astros. Art Warren obviously had some great numbers as well. Kyle Lewis had that big home run barrage. It was fun to watch, man. It was a lot of fun. All right, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Did you have any other stories you needed to get out about the 2017 season?
No, nothing on my mind.
Okay. Just want to make sure we didn't leave any out there. Because, you know, when we asked Pete that at the end of his stuff, he then had to jump back. He told us the Rambo skit story, which –
man, he let you in on Rambo?
He did. Well, Mitch told us the story after that. He had the hat left. Pete did.
I didn't think that they would ever let go on that Rambo stuff. I thought I was going to stay in forever.
You know, I had heard rumors about it, and then Pete brought the Rambo hat to the interview as one of his 3 costume changes, and Mitch relented. And yeah, because he had that. He had his coaching helmet with the almond logo on it, and then he had his Miami Dolphins helmet from the dress up road trip at Arkansas.
That was fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was ready to go.
Yeah, we keep it light, man, and he's a big part of it. Definitely. We had some funny times, man. We had some funny times for sure.
Well, good, man. Love to hear it. Thanks for taking some time. Good to see you're healthy, and man, looking forward to whenever baseball returns.
Yeah, me too, man. It's great talking to you, Keaton.
Appreciate it.
John Thurman Field is the place for fun.